What is going on, everyone? My name is Jericho, and welcome back to some Call of Duty 4 on the PC. And you probably already know why I'm playing Call of Duty 4 right now. It's not a secret anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Call of Duty 4 will be remastered for the new Call of Duty title, which is, what is it? Infinity Warfare. Made by Infinity Ward. Go figure. So I wanted to talk a bit about this because I've been interested in the debates that have been going on whether or not they're going to change a lot in the game in Infinity Ward's version of Call of Duty 4, if they're going to leave it alone and just make it a graphical a graphical update, or what's going on, as well as my opinions as to what could happen when they release this, because honestly I feel like everybody's kind of seeing the world through rose-tinted glasses here. Everybody's kind of excited for what they're expecting Infinity Ward to do. Nobody's really looking at it and going, well, what if it fucks it up? What if it's really just garbage? You know, what if they touch it and it's not supposed to be touched? That's what we're talking about today. We're doing the discussions. Now that I've done rambling for a minute, let me break it down for you in a comprehensible way, okay? Step one. What are they going to do with this game? So, if they are going to come out 8 years after the game was released, actually it was, 2000, so 8 years, almost 9 years after the game's release, you're going to come out with a revamp of Call of Duty 4. Not as a solo game, not as a collection of games like Master Chief Collection, but as a downloadable content option for Infinity Ward's title, Infinity Warfare. Now, I have no problem with this, by the way. None at all. My initial issues come from the fact that there could be a low player size, especially if they're doing some sort of exclusivity for one console or the other, because it's not every single copy gets this. Two, you gotta buy the game in order to get Call of Duty 4, so I get that. That's fine, you know? Honestly, you can't have fault with that. Infinity Ward's gotta sell something, and they're certainly not gonna sell Ghosts number 2, so they had to mix it up somehow, and here we have their idea of a quote-unquote bonus, which is a great one, and I'm all for it. But let's not let it get away from us that this could very well mean that Call of Duty 4's revamp, if we're gonna call it that, will not last very long or long at all, or will be, you know, underdeveloped or undersupported, or, you know, insert any number of problems that we're gonna have with a game that is not the main focus, right? The main focus is Infinity Ward's product. It is Infinity Warfare. Call of Duty 4's remake is entirely a secondary option, a B side to the A team. So it's just, you gotta realize that there is a game-breaking issue. I'm sure they'll fix it, but that's a worry that I have, that it's gonna take a backseat to the prime game. And fuck, man, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't want Call of Duty 4 to be the prime focus of all of this. I love it so much. So that's like the initial issues, you know, you gotta pay a premium to get that. Now let's talk about the conceptual ones, the ones that we don't know whether or not they're gonna do, but they could have horrible, horrible setbacks. So number one on this list is if they remake it. There's two big differences that people keep, you know, forgetting. A remake is different from a graphical update. A remake is changing the game, or is making the game from the ground up, or it's changing fundamental parts of the game to make a quote-unquote newer version of it. A graphical update is just applying different textures to it and making it look fucking good. I personally would like a graphical update. Why? Because I feel that a lot of the draw that Call of Duty 4 had was not just in the gameplay element, but how clean and smooth and good that game feels to play. It reminds me, and if you're questioning whether or not a game engine or the flow of a game can really make that much of a difference, play Call of Duty, any of them, right? Play a Call of Duty game, then go play a Battlefield game. They're objectively different, even though they're very much the same genre of game. One feels incredibly different to move around the map and move around the game space than the other. It's not saying that one's worse than the other. I prefer Call of Duty's motion system and the movement and the running and everything. But, you know, a lot of people say this feels clunky or this doesn't feel smooth. That's what I'm talking about. Call of Duty 4 was so crisp and good feeling. And even to this day, I play it several times a month. It still holds its own, the game engine that is, the movement engine that is, to the newer games out there. It just does. That doesn't mean that newer games don't have that same feel. I think Black Ops 3 feels great. I think Black Ops 2 felt great. You know, there's definitely ways that you can make a game feel good and change the core, the core values. It's not like I'm a purist here who says the only way that Call of Duty 4's remake could be good is if they keep the exact game engine the same and they just fuck around with, some of the damage numbers or the weapons involved, etc., etc. Number 2, I want this graphical update because I really like what Halo did with Master Chief Collection. And I feel like I'm in the minority, but that game was a shithole, shit show of a shit tier garbage shit bag full of shit. That was the worst, okay? And nobody should ever defend it. But when that game worked, holy shit, it was beautiful. It was so good. It kept the charm. I think, and this is a word I'm going to use a lot, the charm, the rose-colored glasses that I was talking about earlier, the nostalgia. They all have a way of clouding your ability to remember the shitty parts of a game. Call of Duty 4 had Frag times 3 Martyrdom. That shit pissed me off. It had Juggernaut. It had, there's a lot. The M16, the weapons were imbalanced. There were some that were completely useless and some that were overpowered. Adding an ACOG on the M4A3 fundamentally changes damage values for no reason. It's just, there were a lot of issues in that game, but it all built towards its character, right? And I feel like when they kept in super bounces in Halo and super jumps and, sword canceling and butterflying, I think they did. I think they kept in, butterfly jumping with the energy sword. All this stuff was a flashback to the past. It reminded me that, yeah, the game had issues, but it's still just as every bit as fun as I liked. I'm not saying for them to include glaring issues that fundamentally break the game. I would love to see people change damage values for, the M16 to make it a little bit less of an absurd weapon, or I'd like to see them add different things to the game that we didn't have initially that aren't going to fundamentally ruin the game, i.e. different weapon skins or weapons that are just reskins of older weapons. I don't even care. Give it the same stats as the MP5 and give me a different gun. Stuff like that is okay to change. Now that I've got my ideas aside for, what I'm worried about when it comes down to support, I'm afraid that, Infinity Ward won't support the game fully or as much as I'd like them to. I'm afraid that they're going to fundamentally change the way the game plays and not just leave it as a graphical update or an update that changes, small things that don't affect the overall gameplay. And the third biggest thing, I'm worried that everybody forgets that it's not the same studio, Infinity Ward, that made Call of Duty 4. Can we remind everybody that this is not the same team that made Call of Duty 4. That team left and made Respawn Entertainment, which is now making Titanfall. So, Infinity Ward, as a team, only has one real game, I feel, under their belt that shows what they're kind of trying to do. That's Call of Duty Ghosts. And I was not a big fan of that game at all. It felt like it lacked everything that it needs to be in a game to give it character. It felt like a shell of its former self. It was just not engaging to me. And that, above all of the things that I've just said, is the worrying part to me, because this is not the Infinity Ward that made or has a long track record of making stellar games or a studio that is going to make really good shooters. This is a different studio, and that is the biggest scare for me, is that I don't trust the studio that brought us Call of Duty Ghosts. I don't trust Activision as a publishing company to not lay heavy-handed laws or demands onto this company that they don't necessarily think will be a good fit for the game. And I don't trust the two of them together to not fuck up my favorite game of all time. I just don't trust them. And in fact, in my head, there's a 50% chance they ruin this game. 50% chance. Just like it's everything wrong with a reboot. There is a 25% chance they leave it as is and I'm satisfied, but it does not do much for me. And then on the same 25%, there's also that equal percentage chance that they somehow miraculously make it everything that I want it to be. I don't have a lot of faith. I've spent, 8 years slowly being let down by the franchise itself. And even though I continue to have fun in Black Ops 3 and in almost every Call of Duty game since then, it doesn't change the fact that continuously I'm let down from what people promise, like every single time. It doesn't matter who it is or who's, you know, who's producing it, whether it's Treyarch or Activision or Sledgehammer or Infinity Ward or Sledgehammer. Every time I get let down in some aspect. So I know it should probably be expected to be let down now. And again, and my final point for all this, and I'm sorry for rambling because I really do care a lot about this game, is that I feel like they really missed a big opportunity here to bundle it with Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3. Actually, fuck Modern Warfare 3. I didn't enjoy that one nearly as much as I did Modern Warfare 2, and even a third as much as I did COD 4. But you had a huge opportunity, especially if we're only doing a revamp of a game's graphics, to add Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 in there. Another huge fan favorite that is made by the same studio, Infinity Ward, and oh man, they messed up on that one. I understand if it's logistically too much effort or if it's not worth it, like financially, but shit, man. I feel like they could have really tagged up on both of those and made a playlist specifically for each one. But that's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Again, the overall points are, I really feel like people are blinded by the nostalgia and the hope and dreams that their favorite game could be coming back to life without really taking a step back and looking at it from a financial decision-making standpoint. Like, how are they going to make money off of this outside of just pre-order sales? As well as how are they going to touch the game? Are they going to fuck around with its insides? Are they going to fuck around with its, just give it a facelift? Like, what's going on here? And finally, Infinity Ward, the company, the studio that makes these games, is not the same Infinity Ward that made Call of Duty 4. So as a result, I'm terrified. I'm excited the game is coming back in some form, but we'll have to wait and see until I can get some hands on before I realize if they've slaughtered my child or not. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all later.